It's 1 a.m., and I'm desperate to finish my day's work, chipping away at a grant or responding to emails or writing back to family and friends I've neglected, but there's an impediment. My right dominant arm is being slowly, spasmodically humped by my cat, Floki. And we both need him to nut so we can get on with our lives. Floki is one of two boys I adopted from a friend who discovered a litter of kittens behind the washing machine in her complex in Tijuana. They were healthy, but small, and I gave them strong Viking names in the hopes they would grow to resemble them, Ragnar and Floki. Ragnar has cost me $14,000 in medical bills. Between two incidences before he turned 4. The first happened when he escaped out of a bathroom window and tore his toe off during the fall. I know. And the second occurred because a crystal formed in his dick. It wasn't the kind of crystal that a girl named Cricket believes will ward off bad energy. No. Very much the opposite. Each time at the emergency vet, I was presented with a piece of paper that asked, "Do you want us to kill your friend? Or will you pay whatever we decide to keep him alive?" And I've paid it both times. Because I'm not a monster, and I decided I could afford it. Because what's taking a vacation or owning a pair of boots that aren't old enough to vote compared to preserving the life of God's perfect oaf? I'd fight harder to keep Ragnar alive than I would most humans I know, to be honest. Ragnar is my sock monkey. He's Mr. Waffles. He's the boy who lived. I'm 44 and live alone with 2 cats. If they don't make it, the world will need to put me down, humanely or otherwise. I let both of the brothers out in the backyard regularly, encased in harnesses, on leashes. Don't come for me, Autobahn nerds. And Ragnar sits in the shade as long as I will let him, talking to birds, smelling the dandelions, and complains when I lift him away from the leaves he is so content to lie in. He's too gentle for this world, which is why I need him so badly to live. Floki is slightly less domesticated, but far more robust. I once thought he was terrified of humans, but I've learned he is braver with women. Both of my boys prefer women. I prefer the company of women. We all share a sensibility we can never discuss, but we make the best of it together. Floki never stops moving. He's hunting as a default. He has traumatized dozens of lizards I pried free from his tiny jaws, and twice now, even in the exhausting, loud sun, managed to root out and kill a fat rat. So does Floki. You'll be happy to know that he kicked their bodies around like soccer balls until he cried from disappointment that the life he took could not play with him any longer. Our family unit was almost perfectly civilized, a home that a guest could visit at any hour, except now Floki needs to nut. So the finer points of veterinarian science elude me, but it is amazing what they can do now for boy cats. They get to keep their furry little dice when they get fixed now. The doctor just snips the part that counts, and which is more humane, and leaves an adorable aesthetic behind. But for better or worse, sometimes the cat remembers what they were meant for. and thus Floki's taken to fucking my arm. Rarely to completion, once maybe. I only think so because of the smell that suddenly filled my nostrils before he ran away in shame. Relatable. It was like some very foreign fruit had been cracked open. Alarmingly, simultaneously rotten and alarmingly fresh. And I took a shower afterwards, but I couldn't quite rise to the level of outrage because I too have come on another person. And I was really grateful they were polite about it. Let's be honest, all men deep down hope that their jizz is going to earn a Michelin star from their lovers. But deep down, we know we're shooting for fine. Mine sometimes has a whiff of bleach about it, and I consider that a win because clean is blameless, right? I've never personally tasted anyone else's because as fun as men can be to drink with, they always strike me as something that needs to be managed but never trusted. From the schoolyard bullies I fought off in childhood to the never fully kind bonding practiced by the adults, I always feel like I have to have a plan in the back of my head to kill men if it comes to it. And it turns out that's not one of my kinks. A few bad apples haven't ruined me to fruit entirely, but I've learned to ask about the conditions that they were grown in. Was their farmer a nice lesbian couple, for instance, or was it a chemical plant? Are they happy being an apple, or did they behave like a hand grenade? Was a Catholic church even remotely visible from their backyard? This is a vetting process born from the few occasions I found myself treated like prey. Each time it's happened, I've been caught off guard to the point where my reaction is dulled by the surprise of it all. I'm 6 feet tall. I've never been accused of being skinny. I'm covered in tattoos, and I'm not slow to anger. I exhibit all of the people equivalents of brightly colored frogs and noisy snakes. I can look scary. I know this because women have told me. Surely there are softer targets out there. But there's no apex predators among humans. There's just opportunities. The first time I learned this as an adult, I was broke after college, campaigning for John Kerry, R.I.P., in a miserable Idaho winter. And I met this other volunteer, a one-armed Jesuit, who offered me a job in New York that came with an apartment. This was an unfathomable boon to my circumstances, a seemingly holy degree of kindness. And to his credit, I got to enjoy it unmolested for 6 months. And then he started slipping a hand in my back pocket. The first few times I shrugged it out, put a little distance between us, but as it continued in full view of all of the other staff, I realized everyone was used to this part of the deal except me. And after I found his internet history full of rent boy websites, I ghosted the job for a much less stressful career with the United Nations as a disaster response officer in Darfur. There are no Catholics in Darfur. I spent one of my first nights in country there drinking my eyes out with this Army helicopter pilot who warned me about all the ways I might die out there, which included if I just chose to walk back to my assigned compound that night. Whatever lay beyond the darkness of our wire was impossible to know. I could catch a bullet just out front the front door. So I better rack with him. I was convinced until he asked me to jerk him off when we got back to his room. I know. I declined. Thankfully, he passed out and then went to sleep. I didn't go to sleep. If it wasn't funny to talk about, I would have forgotten those moments along with all of the others. And it wasn't long after that I entered the indoor phase that I currently occupy, filled with little cats I make up different nicknames for that reflect their antics, like Cinnabon and Beef, and now Horn Dog. But even Ragnar and Floki grew out of their kittenhood in time and stopped cuddling with one another. They were peacocking for space and attention. They're never too rough about it, just spats of spanking and chasing one another when they're bored. But it's enough to make me worry that they need a calming influence in their lives because I've changed for the worse. When Ragnar escaped through the bathroom window and immediately tore his toe off, I waited for him to be released from the veterinarian at a pride party thrown by an acquaintance, a man who decided that was the night to try to put his hand down my pants, with a sweaty, drunk, slobbering confidence that turned me violent. I caused a scene, but it worked in my favor. After a Marine friend had a psychotic break, slammed my head into some bricks, put me in the hospital, that's when I started carrying weapons. There isn't a crevice in my house now or on my person that I couldn't pull something sharp from, and that comforts me. Excites me, to be honest, even. It makes me almost want the next misbehavior to happen just so I can witness a different outcome. I've had to question if I do things that might help that come to pass. All the proof I need to believe in, the biological drive to reproduce, is the fact that women still fuck men. But I know that that's fucking pandering. The language of violence is not gendered. I've seen the pupils of lovers dilate and heard their moans amplify when my hand finds their throat. There are perks to missing out on not participating in that cycle. Everything is about sex except sex, because sex is about power. Ugh, fuck, how droll. We can't be content with nice things and missionary. Even Floki, the blue-eyed samurai himself, he's not immune. Why can't you be more like your brother, I ask him, looking pointedly at Ragnar, who sits politely in the colder corner of the room, waiting for his turn to snuggle that would not come if I didn't intervene. But I don't stop Floki, though. I study him. I see how intent he is, how violently he concentrates, how disappointed he is with the outcome. I let him because I feel sorry for him, like I feel sorry for all of the men. Their obsession for a singular outcome, it's so pathetic. Their flushed faces, their increased heart rate, so cartoonish, yet so common, so universally witnessed. It begs the question if they've evolved free will. It never ends well for them, at least temporary inconveniences, and I wish them all far worse. Floki and I are cool because he is blameless. He is a 4-year-old snowshoe I plucked from behind a washer and dryer when he was a baby. He just wants to feel good like everyone else. And I have the luxury of controlling his damage, swatting him off without a second thought. I can do this because I am enormously, incomprehensibly larger than he is. And he has no real power. Floki has no money. No religious affiliations, no fervent nationalists to demand immunity for his crimes, and no friends on Instagram. He has no Instagram. If I decide his life is worth nothing, then he would die, and no real harm would befall me. I would be held to no human standard. Sometimes I replace him on my couch with Ragnar, encouraging him to take up more space, assert himself, let kindness win. But we don't speak the same language, and there are no words that override nature anyway. Ragnar always abdicates to his brother in time. He cannot match the hardness of the world. He never has. His qualities are numerous and wonderful, but if they become tragic so quickly, if he isn't a survivor, I think about killing some of the men who have been larger and more powerful than me, whether in frame or in power. I could. There is no expiration date on revenge, and there are no apex predators among humans, just intention and resources. I could probably get away with it if I wasn't choosing to talk about it. Even so, who would miss them? They have no allies. They hunt alone. I hope they think about that, but I doubt they do. Predators only remember what they think they need to. They never think about the people who never forget. Someone should make them, because fear is a language all mammals speak. Floki always returns to my lap a few hours after test firing his empty balls. He stretches across my lap and nibbles my fingers like he did with the bottle I fed him as a kitten. Boys mature so much slower. He knows not what he does. So I pet him until he falls asleep with one hand, and I fondle the handle of my hatchet with the other that I've buried under my couch cushion. I listen for anything out of the ordinary, anything but purring, and I wait, because I will raise good boys.
Give it up for Justin!